So kind of how do we get this thing going? How do we improve the environment? We got to cut down on uncertainty first. People say, what is uncertainty? I'll tell you what uncertainty is. It's when you're in the middle of building something and a build-a moratorium starts and you have to stop. That actually put a local builder out of business, and it probably discouraged a hell of a lot of investment. So there was a building moratorium. It started for a year. I think they extended it. And during this moratorium, they decided that one of their pet projects, which was low-income housing on the Selkirk Reserve, they were going to do. So they passed two meetings. They passed an exception, and they let in an Ohio developer that had given $275,000 to Andrew Cuomo. So he's a big Democrat donor. We'll make an exception. You can do your low-income housing. That's a terrible way to run a business environment, because people say, I'm not going to gamble with capital in Bethlehem. I'm going to take it to Saratoga. I'm going to take it to East Greenbush. I'm going to take it to Clifton Park. I'm not going to take it to Bethlehem. I have had business owners and developers tell me they avoid Bethlehem like the plague. They've told me that directly. You may not like it. You may disagree with it. I'm just telling you what business owners and developers are telling me. It's not a great place to do business. We passed a vape moratorium, right? So there were several projects that were in process for vape shops and stop, because all of a sudden somebody has a problem with vape shops. So there was a vape moratorium. The comprehensive plan was a major signal to investors that they should go elsewhere. We tried to dump the dive tank. So I don't know if you guys know this, but we've had this beautiful dive tank over at the town park since mid-70s, I think around 1973, 74, something like that. It's one of three kind of crown jewel dive tanks in upstate New York. The town board just willy-nilly decided they wanted a slide pool. So they did a survey to see if people had an appetite to do away with the dive tank and have a slide pool. It came back 2-1 that people wanted to spend any amount of money to preserve the dive tank. So did they accept that answer from the town and stop? No. They kept going. They kept plowing forward. We had to get a petition. We were showing up to every board meeting, begging and pleading them to stop. The only reason I was notified of this is because my wife has run the aquatics program for the last 25 years in town. I wouldn't even have known. That's how they tried to just slide this through. And I grew up here, right? I grew up jumping off the diving boards and all of those things. So, it would have been devastating to lose that. Luckily, they finally stopped, but it went right up to the point where they were going to pass it, and finally they relented. And that's kind of a problem in general with the way that the town board runs the town. They don't respect the stakeholders, right? So you have, Beacon Island, where they trample everybody. You have the road diet, where there was like 60 businesses that were begging town hall not to do this, and they hired a PR company and they spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to prevent it. But people are just getting steamrolled left and right in town, and that's really no way to run a town government. We had a $37 million library renovation that was on the table. This team here put a lot of effort into defeating that. We designed those signs. We raised money for the signs. We distributed those signs out in town. A lot of that people don't realize. They think it's, some magical entity. There are people that I put against a library sign in their front lawn, and they're going to vote against me because they don't connect the two. But we're the group that's trying to be responsible with your money and trying to spend your money in the right ways so that we have more prosperity, and we make Bethlehem one of the nicest places in the Northeast, which is what it was for many, many years before recent decline. I spoke about the road diet. They had this crazy idea that they were going to traffic calm by constricting Delaware Avenue to one lane on each side. Now there's 18,000 cars that go through that corridor every day. So all of the 2-lane area, if you force that into one lane, everybody's going to be restricted to the slowest driver. And you can imagine what the traffic is going to look like every night going all the way back into Albany. And, it could result in loss of business because people decide to go around to 9W and 32. It could result in a half hour less every night with your family. These things are maybe not important to the town board because they're chasing the Earth's temperature or something like that, but these are quality of life things that matter to kind of rank and file people that live in Bethlehem. And then, finally, we bought Heath Farm for millions of dollars. And look, I'm a big open spaces fan, but I think there's a way to manage open spaces, which is how we did it for decades here. We kept undeveloped land taxes very, very low, and families own these parcels for many years. They took pride in owning these parcels. They had many opportunities to sell, but they didn't because it was part of their family legacy. We only started losing hundreds of acres of land when the property assessments went through the roof and people's tax bills went up 5x, 6x, 10x. It just wasn't affordable. A lot of these people are land rich, but they're cash poor. They don't have $50,000 to be able to pay these tax bills every year. So all of this uncertainty really leads to discouraging investment.